The jungle moon of Maratha was silent. Too silent. Kyle, a young human soldier in his early 20s, walked slowly through the thick green vines. His boots squished in the wet dirt. Above him, giant purple leaves moved with the wind, but he heard. No birds, no bugs, no life. That's what worried him. He checked his scanner again. Sector 7, see no life signs, he whispered. Still, something felt wrong. The outpost hadn't sent a signal in 2 hours. That was not normal. Kyle touched the side of his helmet. Command, this is Scout Kyle. I've reached the outer perimeter. No contact with Outpost Zeta. Static. Then silence. His heart beat faster. He tightened his grip on his plasma rifle and moved forward, stepping over a broken tree. That's when he smelled it burnt metal. He ran. When he reached the clearing, his eyes widened. The outpost was gone. The watchtower had collapsed. Smoke rose from blackened machines. Pieces of metal and fire lay everywhere. He moved carefully. Between broken crates and destroyed gear, bodies were gone. Not a single soldier left. No blood, no signs of a battle. It was like they vanished. Then dash crack. A sound behind him. Kyle turned fast. Rifle aimed. Nothing, just trees. Another sound, closer, a whisper. Then she jumped from the trees above. A small figure landed on him, knocking him to the ground. Kyle rolled and kicked upward, sending the figure flying. It wasn't human. She was about his height, but her skin shimmered in silver and pale blue. Her eyes were glowing gold, cat-like. Her dark hair was tied back in a warrior braid. She wore light armor made from some alien metal. A long tail flicked behind her. Kyle stood, ready to fight. But she wasn't attacking. She was limping. Her side was bleeding. Her hands shook. He lowered his weapon a little. Are you hurt? What happened here? She glared at him. I don't need protection, human. She snapped in a deep, proud voice. Kyle raised both hands. Okay, easy. I'm just trying to help. She turned to walk away, clutching her side. Then the trees moved again. A dark shape slid between the trunks. Fast. Too fast. A hunter. Kyle saw it, just in time. He yelled, "Behind you," and ran forward. The alien girl spun, but she was too slow. The creature lunged. A large beast, all black muscle and teeth, jumped out of the shadows. Kyle fired. Once, twice, the shots hit the creature, sending it crashing into a tree. It screeched and ran off. The girl had fallen to one knee. Kyle rushed to her side. Are you okay? She pushed his hand away. I said I don't need, but then she fainted. Kyle caught her before she hit the ground. He looked around. The beast might return. He couldn't leave her here. He looked down at her face. Even unconscious, she looked fierce. Proud. She wasn't just any alien girl. She was trained. A warrior. But warriors bleed too. Kyle picked her up gently and carried her toward a safer area as he walked. She muttered in her sleep in a language he didn't understand. Then, suddenly, she whispered something in English. Double quotes, ... Don Law quotes. Kyle blinked. He looked down at her. Her arms had wrapped around his neck while she slept. Her tail hung limply over his back. He took a deep breath and kept walking. Whatever happened at the outpost, this girl was the only one left, and maybe, just maybe, she wasn't as fearless as she pretended. The alien girl woke up with a sharp breath. Her golden eyes flew open. She wasn't in the jungle anymore. She was under a rocky overhang hidden behind thick vines. The smell of smoke drifted from a small fire nearby, and there he was, the human, sitting cross-legged, checking a metal device in his hand. She growled low. Why am I still alive? Kyle looked up calmly. "'Cause I saved you," he said, not looking afraid at all. "You fainted. I couldn't leave you there." The girl sat up too fast and winced. Her side was still bleeding. "I didn't ask for your help," she snapped, her voice low but full of fire. Kyle shrugged. "You didn't have to. I do what's right." She stood, slowly, glaring. "My people would never accept weakness like that," she said, looking down at the bandage around her waist. "This is shame." Kyle stood too. "Where I come from, it's called survival." For a moment, they just stared at each other. She stood like a wildcat, ready to pounce, her tail twitching in anger. Then, without warning, she attacked. She moved. Fast, almost faster than Kyle's eyes could follow. Her claws slashed through the air. Claws slashed through the air. "Whoa, easy," he shouted. She didn't stop. He didn't stop. Another strike came. Then a spin kick. He ducked, rolling. "Sideways, I saved you." Kyle shouted again, dodging her next punch. "I didn't ask you to," she screamed. "You think I'm weak now. Just another soft alien girl who needs human saving." Kyle grunted as she landed a hit to his shoulder. He stumbled back, but didn't. "Fight back. I'm not your enemy," he said, breathing hard. "I'm not trying to control you." She froze for a second. Her claws hovered inches from his throat. Her body trembled not from fear, but from something deeper: anger, shame, pride. Slowly, she backed away. "I am Relia," she said, almost growling. "Daughter of Clan Thalrek, the last." Kyle stood. "Tall Kyle," he said, wiping blood from his lip. "Human scout, not here to hurt you." They stared again. This time, something softer passed between them. Relia sat down with her arms crossed. "Your fighting is slow," she said, smirking. Kyle chuckled. "Your punches hurt." She looked away, but her tail flicked like she was hiding a smile. Then they both went quiet. The jungle around them stayed still, but the air felt tense. Something attacked the outpost, Kyle said after a while. It didn't kill for food. It removed every body, even the weapons. Relia's eyes narrowed. "It's called a director. Bioengineered, made to clean up and leave no trace." Kyle blinked. "So it's military tech." She nodded slowly. "Made by the ones who killed my clan. If it's here, they are close." Kyle frowned. "That means we're both targets." Relia stood. Her anger had shifted into focus. "Then stop wasting time." She began walking into the jungle, limping slightly. Kyle called out, "Where are you going?" "To find the others like Miff. They're alive," she said. "And I don't need protection." He grabbed his gear. "I didn't say I'd protect you, but I'm not letting you walk into death alone." She paused, looked over her shoulder. "No promises," she muttered. "If you slow me down, I leave you behind." Kyle smirked. "Fair enough." And so, the human and the wildcat girl walked into the deep green together. She walked fast. He followed close. She didn't talk, but every so often, she'd glance back to make sure he was still there, and for the first time since her clan was taken, Relia didn't feel completely alone. Dark clouds rolled in above the green sky of Marata. Rumbling like a distant war drum, Kyle followed Relia through the twisting jungle paths, ducking under hanging vines, stepping over glowing moss and trying not to fall behind. She moved like a shadow, silent, fast, and confident even, though she still limped from her wound, but Kyle could feel the tension growing in the air. The way animals vanished and the jungle hushed. He glanced up. "Storm's coming," he said. Relia didn't slow down. "Keep walking," she replied. "We don't stop just because the sky growls." Kyle muttered, "That sky's about to pour fire." The first drops of rain came fast, fat, warm, and sudden. In seconds, they were soaked, the wind howling through the trees, lightning crackling in strange colors across the sky. Shelter. Kyle shouted, but his voice was lost in the storm. Relia pointed ahead to a narrow slope. This way, they climbed carefully, the ground slippery with wet roots, until they reached a natural rock shelf hidden behind giant leaves. Kyle ducked inside, setting down his gear, water dripping off his armor. "Well, not bad for a jungle cave," he said, trying to smile. Relia stayed silent, but her shoulders eased a little. Kyle started a small fire with his plasma torch and dry flares, the flickering orange glow casting long shadows on the walls. Relia sat with her back to the rock, arms crossed, tail curled tightly around her legs. Kyle handed her a protein bar. "You should eat." She took it, hesitated, then bit it like it might betray her, chewing slowly. For a while, they sat in silence. Rain pounding outside like a war was happening just beyond the leaves. Then Kyle spoke softly. "You don't have to keep acting like I'm your enemy, Relia." Didn't look at him. "You don't understand," she said. "My people." The weak were left behind. Kyle stared into the fire. "Yeah. Humans used to be like that too." She glanced at him now. "Curious," he nodded. "Long ago, if someone got hurt, they were a burden. But we learned we survived better together." Relia's voice dropped. "My parents died protecting me. I wasn't strong enough to save them. I don't want anyone else to die for me." Kyle met her eyes. "Then don't let me die either. Watch my back, I'll watch yours." She didn't answer, but she didn't look away either. The storm outside got louder, thunder shaking the cave walls. Suddenly, the fire flickered, then dimmed. Kyle stood up quickly, aiming his rifle at the entrance. "Something's out there," he whispered. Relia crouched beside him, claws out, eyes glowing in the dark. They waited. Seconds passed like hours, but nothing came in. Then, a quiet rustling, gentle this time, like small feet stepping near the leaves. Relia lowered her hand. "It's just jungle mice," she said softly, then added with a smirk, "Want me to protect you now?" Kyle smiled. "Depends. Would you cling to my back like earlier?" Her face went red with anger. "Or maybe embarrassment. I was unconscious," she said quickly. "That doesn't count." "Sure," Kyle chuckled. "But your tail wrapped around me like you meant it." Relia turned away fast, her tail curling tighter. "Go to sleep, human," she snapped. "Before I decide to claw you for fun." Kyle laughed quietly, leaning back against the wall. His body relaxing, she lay down near him. Not close, but not far either. For a few minutes, the cave was quiet again. Then Relia whispered in the dark, "I didn't hate it, you know?" Being carried, Kyle kept his eyes closed, voice calm. "I didn't mind it either." The fire crackled, and the storm roared, but inside the shelter, something small and warm had begun to grow between them. Not trust yet, but maybe the first spark of it. The morning mist rolled through the jungle like silent ghosts, cool and heavy, wrapping everything in a silver fog. Kyle stretched and opened his eyes slowly, blinking at the faint orange glow of the dying fire. Relia was already awake, crouched just outside the shelter, staring into the fog like it might speak to her. He noticed her ears twitching slightly, alert, listening for sounds only she could hear. She hadn't said a word since sunrise. Kyle stood up, quietly stepping beside her. "Sleep okay?" Relia didn't answer. Her eyes focused far away. Didn't think aliens needed coffee. He joked lightly, trying to break the silence. She finally spoke, her voice soft and low. "My dreams. They were afire again." Kyle frowned. "The attack," she gave a slow nod. "No matter how far I run, I keep hearing their screams." Kyle was quiet for a while, then asked, "Was your whole clan wiped out?" She closed her eyes. "We were proud. We trained for war." But it didn't matter. Kyle sat on a rock nearby. "My brother died in his first deployment," he said quietly. He wasn't ready. Thought war was about being brave. But it's not. Say's about surviving long enough to feel guilty. Relia finally looked at him, her golden eyes softer this time. Almost. "Curious? You hide pain with humor," she said. Tilting her head, he smirked. "Better than crying every day?" She looked away quickly. But Kyle caught at the tiny shimmer at the corner of her eye. Not quite a tear, but close. There were secrets hiding behind her fierce gaze, buried deep like weapons locked in vaults. Relia stood up fast, brushing herself off. "We move now." Kyle sighed and grabbed his gear. "Where exactly are we going?" She looked toward the east. "There's an old relay tower, built by my people before the war. If anyone survived, they'll send a signal there." "Sounds like a plan," Kyle said. Falling into step behind her, they walked for hours, deeper into the wild, the ground growing uneven and tangled. Kyle noticed something as they walked. Relia kept looking up, watching the trees, scanning constantly, expecting trouble. He asked Directors Hunt in silence. She replied, "If they've been released in this region, they're close." Kyle frowned. "You said before, they don't just kill, they clean up." Relia nodded. "They erase witnesses." "Like me?" "Like you." That thought stayed with Kyle as they walked. Suddenly, Relia stopped and raised a hand. Kyle froze too, listening. A faint humming, almost too low to hear mechanical, but wrong. Then it stopped. Relia pulled Kyle behind a thick tree, her body tense. "There's a scout drone," she whispered, "from the ones who controlled the directors." Kyle whispered back, "Then someone's still watching this planet." She slowly took out a small throwing blade from her hip and handed it to Kyle. "What's this for?" "If we get separated," she said, "don't shout. Use this. It vibrates at a pitch only I can hear." Kyle looked at the blade, small, sharp. Alien, deadly, but also a token of trust. "You sure about this?" he asked. She met his eyes, steady and calm. "I don't give my weapons to just anyone." Kyle smiled, tucking the blade into his belt. "Then I'm honored." Relia, of Clan Thalrek. Her expression didn't change, but her tail flicked. Once, slowly. They continued walking until the jungle thinned and the remains of an old metal tower rose through the trees, covered in vines and rust. Relia stepped forward, hands on her hips, eyes scanning. "This is it," she said. "Let's find out if anyone else is still alive." But even as she spoke, Kyle noticed something strange underneath the vines. Claw marks, large and deep, carved into the metal supports. Something had been here first. Watching, waiting, and maybe, just maybe, still nearby. The tower was dead. No signal, no lights. Just rust, silence, and claw marks. Kyle stared at the deep gashes carved into the metal frame. They weren't made by tools, not even by normal claws. These had purpose. Like a warning, Relia placed her palm against one of the marks. She didn't speak, but her tail curled tightly behind her. She recognized it too. "They were here," she whispered. "Directors." Kyle swallowed hard, his eyes scanning the tree line. "How long ago?" Relia knelt, brushing the dirt with her fingers. The soil was disturbed, burnt. Something had walked in circles around the base of the tower, again and again. "Not long," she said grimly. "A day, maybe less." Suddenly, the hairs on Kyle's neck stood up. Not fear instinct. A low clicking noise came from the jungle. Then silence. He raised his rifle slowly, eyes darting left, then right. "Don't move," Relia said. Barely a breath. "It sees us." A shape detached from the shadows, 7 feet tall. All black, no eyes. Smooth skin that shimmered like glass. It moved without sound. It was a director. Kyle felt his heart hammer in his chest. His rifle locked onto the center of its chest. Run or fight? He asked. Relia didn't answer. Instead, she leaped, her body twisting midair as she threw a glowing disc toward the creature. It missed, but it flashed with a burst of light. Now? She screamed, grabbing Kyle's wrist. They ran, leaping over roots and ducking low branches as the director roared behind them. Its footsteps silent but heavy, shaking the earth with each step. It doesn't give up. Kyle shouted, breathless. It's designed not to. She yelled back, it will chase us until we devour. It does. They reached a narrow stream. Relia jumped across easily, but Kyle slipped and fell in. Splashing hard, the director closed in, its limbs shifting into blade shapes, ready to strike. Before it could lunge, Relia spun back, grabbed a rock, and hurled it at the beast's head with a shout that echoed through the jungle. Come on then, she roared, standing wide, arms spread. The director paused, turning toward her. Kyle struggled to stand, water rushing around his boots, heart thumping. Relia looked at him and shouted, move. I'll distract it. Kyle stepped forward. No. He said, I'm not leaving you, she growled. You stubborn fool. Kyle raised his rifle again and fired 3 rounds into the director's legs. The blasts didn't kill it, but they slowed it just enough. Relia ran back to him. This way higher ground. They scrambled up a rocky path, roots clawing at their feet. The director followed, silent and furious. Finally, they reached a cliff edge flat, wide and empty. Nowhere left to run. Relia turned to Kyle, panting. It will kill us here, she said, lest we fight smart. Kyle caught his breath, then took a risk. Get on my back, he said. She blinked. What? He turned around, lowering himself. Your speed, my strength. You guide. I shoot. Like last time, Relia stared for a moment. Then she gave the smallest smirk. I still don't need protection, she muttered, then jumped onto his back, arms locking around his chest, legs tight around his waist, tail wrapping for balance. Go. She whispered in his ear, let's show it what 2 species can do. The director charged. They moved like one. Relia leaned and shouted directions. Left, fire low. Duck. Kyle obeyed, firing controlled shots, rolling, turning, dodging, while she used her claws and blades to slash when it got too close. It was chaos, but it was beautiful. The human and the alien moved like they had trained together for years, their minds sinking in the rhythm of survival. Finally, Relia shouted, now. And Kyle knelt. She jumped from his back, landed on the director's head, and drove her blade deep into its skull. The beast screamed, flailed, then collapsed. Shaking the ground one last time, Kyle stood slowly, breathing hard. Relia dropped. Beside him, covered in black blood, panting, neither said anything for a long moment. Then Relia leaned against him, exhausted. You're not completely useless, she whispered. Kyle smiled. Thanks. That means a lot coming from a girl who just rode me into battle. She laughed, just once, a sound sharp and honest, and for the first time. It didn't feel like they were just surviving. It felt like they were winning, together. The jungle was quiet again, but it wasn't peace. It was the breath before the scream, the silence before the final blow. Kyle sat on a rock, sharpening the edge of Relia's blade. Across from him, she tightened the straps of her armor. Her golden eyes narrowed in focus. The dead director still lay at the cliff's edge, black blood staining the ground, its body already turning to ash, as if it had never existed. Kyle looked at the body and then at Relia. It won't stop here, will it? She shook her head. That one was just a scout. If the others are awake, they'll come for us. In numbers, Kyle sighed. So round 2, Relia smirked slightly. No. The final round, she stood and walked to a small metal box, half buried in the dirt. She pressed her thumb to its surface, and it clicked open. Inside was an orb glowing faintly blue, humming like a sleeping heartbeat. What is that? Kyle asked, standing. Clan Thaurak's last command beacon, she said, her voice softer. Than before, it calls the ship. One ship, but only once. After that, the signal burns out. Kyle frowned. Can it get us out? Relia looked up at the sky. Yes, but it will also alert every director within 50 kilometers. Including the Alpha. Kyle stared at her. There's an Alpha. She nodded. The one who led the purge. Bigger, smarter, faster. It killed my father. Kyle walked to her slowly, then placed the blade he'd sharpened back into her hands. Then we finished this. Relia activated the beacon. A sharp hum echoed through the jungle, rising like a scream, then vanished. The light turned red. It's coming, she said quietly. The sun began to set. The jungle changed colors, green to gold, gold to red, and then to blood-dark shadows. Kyle and Relia stood at the same cliff where they had defeated the last director. Now they waited, back to back, weapons ready, hearts pounding. I'm not afraid, Kyle said, gripping his rifle. I am, Relia admitted, surprising him. But I'm done running. Then the ground began to shake. Leaves rustled. Trees bent. A low, crawling growl moved across the forest floor. Like the earth itself was angry, it stepped into the clearing. 10 feet tall, covered in dark armor grown from its own body. Multiple arms. Burning red slits for eyes. And long, sharp blades. Where its fingers should be, the Alpha Director, Relia, stepped forward. You know me, she shouted, voice hard like steel. I survived the culling, and now I end it. The Alpha roared. It charged. Kyle fired first plasma bolts, hitting its shoulder and legs. The Alpha didn't slow down, only got angrier. Relia leapt to the side, using trees as springboards, slashing the Alpha's back, distracting it, but it moved faster than expected, swinging its bladed arm and nearly slicing her from midair. Kyle dove and pulled her out of the way at the last second. She growled, I said I don't need. Shut up and fight. Kyle snapped, pulling her up. Together, they launched their counterattack. Relia distracted it from above, swinging between branches, throwing knives, aiming for joints. Kyle stayed on the ground, dodging, shooting, always moving, drawing. Its attention, but the Alpha was learning, adapting. It caught Kyle's leg and flung him against a tree. He hit hard, groaning. Relia screamed, charging forward. She jumped high, blade drawn straight toward the creature's throat. But the Alpha caught her midair, claws tightening around her neck. Lifting her, she gasped, struggling, her strength fading. Kyle, bleeding and breathless, crawled to his weapon, his vision blurry. Then he saw it, the glowing beacon Relia had used earlier, still in the dirt, pulsing faintly. He grabbed it and crushed it in his hand, activating its self-destruct. Hey, Kyle roared, stumbling forward, holding the beacon high. The Alpha turned. This time, Kyle growled, You die with us. He threw the beacon under the creature's legs, and it exploded in a flash of blinding white-blue light. The blast threw Relia free and sent the Alpha staggering, its limbs twitching. Relia hit the ground hard, rolled, then ran forward without hesitation. She climbed its body like a spider, stabbed once, twice, 3 times into its spine, till finally she drove her blade deep into the base of its skull. The Alpha let out a scream that split the sky, then collapsed, twitching one last time. Silence, smoke. Then the low hum of a ship's engine overhead. Kyle lay on the ground, coughing. and saw Aurelia walking toward him. She knelt and pulled him up, holding him against her. "You stubborn idiot," she whispered. "You weren't supposed to die." He smiled weakly. "Neither were you." They looked up at the sky together where salvation now hovered in silver wings. The ship doors hissed open with a soft breath of warm air. Aurelia stepped inside first. Dragging Kyle's arm across her shoulders, helping him walk, he limped. Bruised and bloodied, but alive. The human scout and the alien warrior had survived the impossible together. Medical drones floated toward them, scanning, injecting, healing. Kyle waved one off. "I'm fine," he muttered, voice weak but proud. "You're not," Aurelia said firmly. "Don't be stupid. Let them help." He glanced at her with a crooked smile. "Says the girl who bit my arm when I tried to carry her." She snorted softly, but her tail curled gently around his ankle, like a silent apology. The ship lifted off, its engines humming. And through the window, the jungle moon of Mirata shrank below, then quiet now. Almost peaceful, but they both knew peace had a price. In the medbay, Kyle sat on the edge of the cot, watching Aurelia as she retied the braid in her hair with careful fingers. Her armor was scratched, her skin marked with faint scars, but she stood tall, sharper than ever. "So what happens now?" Kyle asked. She paused. "Now, I go to the outer colonies. Look for what's left of my people and me," he asked, trying not to sound too hopeful. She looked at him for a long moment. Her gaze was unreadable, but not cold. "You," she said slowly, "are too loud, too soft, too stubborn." Kyle chuckled. "That a no." Aurelia stepped closer. Her voice low, but "Bay, you're also the first person who fought beside me, not in front of me." "That means something," he blinked. "Is that alien talk for I like you?" She rolled her eyes. "It's alien talk for I don't hate your face anymore." They both laughed softly. Then her expression turned serious. "When I said I didn't need protection, I meant it." Kyle nodded. "I know, but," she added, "I've never had someone who watched my back without trying to control me. You didn't treat me like a weapon or a child. I just treated you like a person," Kyle said. She took a breath, stepped even closer and, without warning, jumped onto his back. Arms wrapped around his shoulders, tail curling around his waist. Kyle froze, then burst out laughing. "What are you doing?" "Resting," she said, eyes closed, chin resting near his neck. "Don't move." "I'm comfortable. You're clinging like a monkey," he teased. "Get used to it." She replied, "I may not need protection, but I'm choosing to." "Stay close," he smiled, feeling the warmth of her against his back, the strange safety that came with her presence. "Hey, Aurelia." "HM. Does this mean I'm your battle partner now?" She leaned forward and whispered, "Only if you can keep up." 1 week later, the Galactic Council broadcasted a strange message. An unknown Director Alpha was destroyed on Mirata. Survivors too, a human scout and a rogue alien warrior. Their story spread quickly. Some called it a legend. Others didn't believe it, but those who met them later on faraway planets, helping refugees or clearing out jungle nests, knew the truth, because wherever danger appeared, the girl with golden eyes and the human with tired jokes arrived together. Back to back, side by side, and she always clung to his back before every fight, not because she was weak, but because she had finally chosen who she trusted to carry her. Not a protector, not a master, not a hero, just someone who stood with her, exactly as she was.